All right, welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Insider Secrets podcast. Excited to spend some more time with you again today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to use storytelling in your marketing. Now, this is a very, very powerful way to communicate your marketing message, how to communicate the value of what it is that you're doing. And the reason that storytelling is so powerful is because information can be dull. Like if you've ever been at a presentation where someone was just sharing lots and lots of data, they were sharing lots and lots of information on this is what this is, that's what that is. Now, it's not that that information isn't interesting or it isn't compelling or it isn't powerful, but there comes a point in time where you just hit information overload and you become very just your brain isn't processing it anymore. It's not handling the information anymore because it's just too much data, and you're not even hearing all the information. It's just kind of flowing straight through you because you're not even absorbing it anymore. It's just too much. But if someone tells you this information in a different way, if they're telling it to you in the form of a story, you are 100 times more likely to hold on to that. You are 100 times more likely to keep that information, to keep that understanding, because the way the human brain works is that we learn via stories. We learn when we hear things in a story format, because that connects with us, because that is a much more personal way of learning things, as opposed to here's the numbers, here's the data, here's the information, which is just much more detached. So why is that? What is the science behind storytelling? What is it about storytelling that makes it so powerful? Well, stories create emotional connections. Okay. And when you're hearing a good story, think about the last time you watched a movie that was just very impactful to you and you really connected with one of the characters in that movie, and you're just sitting there and you just you relate to them, you have a connection to them, you feel like I know how they feel, because I felt similarly to that in my own life, in my own journey, in the things that I've experienced. I have felt that way. I have felt very much a level of similarities here. I have a lot of connections. So what ends up happening is you're no longer sitting there just absorbing information, saying, okay, this is what this is, that's what that information is, that's what that data shows. No, you're now invested. When you hear that story, when you hear that story told to you, or you see it unfold in front of you, you become emotionally invested. You see yourself in that story, and that activates parts of your brain. That activates a different part of your brain that influences decision making. It influences how you connect to things. You become invested at a whole other level. Again, if you're just memorizing facts about things, I like my children, recently all graduated college, and so we're through all this. But one of the things that drove me nuts with the public school system as they were going through it in high school was that the teachers were very much just pushing facts, push facts, push facts, push facts, just memorize, memorize, memorize. And then you take the test, you regurgitate the facts, and you move on. And all of my children said, yeah, 2 years later, I can't remember any of it. I cannot remember any of that information because it was just memorize and dump, memorize. And now the next thing, memorize and dump, get through the test, get through the test. That's all it was. They didn't actually apply it to themselves. They didn't ingest it into their personality. They didn't ingest it into their mind, into their soul, and learn it and experience it in such a way that it actually stuck with them. It was just knowledge in and information out. So this is why too many times when somebody is trying to sell somebody on their services, when we were trying to convince them, hey, you should consider working with me. I've done X, Y, and Z. Look, I've gotten this and I did that. And you start showing them all this information. You start showing them, well, we can, our brake pads are, have 4% more of this, or our services are 10% better in this area. And it just, okay. I mean, and it might be a good thing because it might be just what that customer is looking for. But at the end of the day, it doesn't connect with them, because people connect with emotions, not data. Data is just information. It's just, again, stuff that comes in, stuff that goes out. It's not things that connect with you deeply. It's not something that you're going to latch onto and create a memory of. So think about it this way. When you watch a movie, when you're in watching or reading a book with a story, there's typically, again, it's very basic elements. There are typically three main things that are in that story. You have a main character, whoever he or she may be in that story. You have a conflict or a problem that character is working through. It could be a conflict that's inner within themselves, things that they're working through internally. It could be a conflict with circumstances, like they're in a very difficult set of circumstances that they're trying to work through, or maybe they're in a conflict with another individual. There's another person in their life that is causing lots of issues and problems, but there's a conflict. And then eventually at some point, there's a resolution. There's a solution to the problem, and depending on how the story is built and how the movie is put out, it may end up being a good resolution, or it may end up being a bad one. But that is the basic elements of a story. Even in a bad story where a person, is the main character gets sick with some deadly disease, and at the end of the story they die. Well, that's a very bad and sad story, but it's a resolution. The problem has been resolved in a sad and disheartening way, but it's still been resolved. And that's the essence at a very, very, very basic level of every story, of everything, every book that we read. That's like a story, a book, a fictional book, or every movie that we watch or show that we watch. That's in many ways what a story is. So when we utilize this for marketing, and when a story becomes powerful, when a movie really becomes popular and a book becomes really popular, usually one of the reasons is because people see themselves in that character, right? People see themselves in that character and they say, wow, even though the circumstances for this character are different than the circumstances for my life, I 100% relate to who this person is and what they're going through. Like there's a Netflix series out right now, and it was about, a parents of a kid who killed another kid. And it was all about, they're struggling with the idea of how could our son have done this terrible thing? And did he actually do it? And then when they cut the end, they're like, what should we have done different as parents? And the father was sitting there grieving, like, what did I do wrong? And they realized, yes, their son actually did this terrible thing. And the father's just broken. And he's sitting there just falling apart because he's like, what did I do wrong? Why, how could this have happened? How could this son that I loved, that I cared for, have done such a horrible, horrible thing? And the father is just broken into pieces. And as a father of 3 children, that touched me deeply as I sat there and watched that, because all of us who have had parents, who have had kids that have, grown up, we all look back on it and go, what should I have done differently? What could I have done better? How could I have, not made that mistake? Maybe, if I hadn't made that mistake 4 years ago, things would be different now. Or maybe if I had done this differently, things would be better. And so you see yourself in that story and you start introspectively asking yourselves those questions, and you're invested in it, and your heart is just very much in tune because it's very applicable to yourself. You're seeing yourself in that story. You're walking that journey with that main character. Now let's take this notion and apply it to how does this matter for your marketing? How does this matter for what it is that you're doing as a business owner, as a marketer? Well, here's the thing. When you tell your story as a marketer, what you want to do is you want to position your customer or your future customer, the person that you're speaking to, as the hero of the story. Okay, they are the hero of the story. They're the main character. They're the main person involved in this story. And they are experiencing some type of challenge. That's why they're talking to you. That's why they're listening to you, because they have something in their life that's not right. They have something in their life that isn't what they want it to be. They have something that's there that's like, I'm really not happy with this part of my life, whatever that may be. There's a problem. There's something that's sitting there. They're going, I got to get better at this. I got to improve in this area. This is not good. This is not working out well. I got to make some changes. And they're talking to you and they're looking at what you're doing because they're looking for a solution. They're looking for a way out. So you have the main character, which is your customer. You have the problem, which is whatever the struggle is that they're going through right now in their life. They're not getting the results that they want. And then the solution. And the solution is in your marketing, your services, your product, whatever that may be. And if you learn how to tell that story and to tell that story well, so that you have, here's your customer, here's the problem that they're struggling with. And now they're saying, yes, that's me. That's me. I absolutely am struggling with it. That is exactly where I'm at. I have this dream of what I want to achieve, and I just can't quite get there. I can't achieve it. I can't get it done. And wait, this is the solution. This is how all of a sudden I could do it. And you start telling stories of past customers. This is this customer that we worked with. They came to us and they were struggling with this, and this. And then we helped them. We showed them exactly what to do. And bam, now look at the results that they're getting. And here's a second customer and the same thing, and the third and the fourth. And suddenly you're sitting there going, what? They all did that. And they're seeing themselves in these stories and they're going, I want that. I want to be able to have that story be my story. And when you get them invested into that story, they suddenly start becoming very much desiring of, how do I work with you? How do I get what you're offering? Because I want that to be my story, because my heart is now into that. My heart is in that story. So how do you utilize this? How do you utilize this on your website, on different things? One of the things is, on your website, if you have an About Us page, like who we are, that type of page, you can create an engaging About Us page that tells your story of your brand journey, about how you started helping people, and how you're transforming lives as the result of what you've created and what you've done. You can go on social media and start sharing some of these stories of people that you've worked with, this is where they came to us, this is where they are at, and after we helped them and after we worked with them, bam, look at where they are now. Look at the change. Look at the radical transformation that has happened in their life. And there's this amazing transformation that happens. There's amazing things that happen. And you're going, wow, you're telling these stories and people are relating to that story. Because, think about it this way, and think about it in the health and fitness area. Like this person came to me, and there's this one story. I help a doctor with some of his marketing, and he tells this story of this lady who was having significant health problems. She was in bad shape. She was very, very poor health. And so much so that she ended up in a hospital in a coma. Again, he had talked to her previously about, helping her get healthy, and she just wasn't ready to make those changes. And she ended up declining in her health to the point where she was in a hospital in a coma. And he actually has a picture of her with wires and tubes and all, stuff on her. And she's laying there and she looks like, she may very well be staring at the end. And what ended up happening was she pulled out of the coma. She was able to get out of the hospital and go back home. And then she came back to him and said, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready to do the thing. I'm ready to make the changes. I've had enough shaking throughout all this that I'm ready to make the change. And so she implemented the health changes and made the lifestyle changes that he recommended for her. And now she is fit, she is thin, she is healthy, she's vibrant, she's active in her life. She's running around, playing with her grandchildren, going on trips, very active in her life. She went from this person who literally was on the precipice of dying to now leading a healthy, vibrant life again. And so when he tells this story, people's jaws just drop and they go, what? That's amazing. And people are seeing themselves in that story, maybe not to that extreme, maybe not to the extreme of I'm in the hospital in a coma, but they're seeing themselves, they're looking at themselves going, yeah, I need to, man, I am not as healthy as I should be. I have some challenges that I'm working through. I want to have that story too. I want to be the person who can now be healthy and vibrant and living life with full of energy and going out and playing and with my grandchildren and going on vacations and doing all these great things again. I don't want to be that person who's stuck in the hospital bed. And so they relate to it. And he tells that story, and he has gotten a lot of clients simply by telling that story. That story is so powerful because people are relating to it. They're seeing themselves in that. So in your social media, go and tell stories like that. If you have somebody that you worked with or somebody that you know or somebody that you were affiliated with, someone that you were associated with who had an amazing story, who had an amazing turnaround, and you were a part of that, tell that story. Tell that story, and so that people can say, hey, I want that. You know, you did that for that person. Wow, I want that. Or find a way, even if you weren't the only person working, well, you were a member of a team that worked with somebody to help them get that. Tell that story. Show the path. Show the path of how to get there. Show the path of somebody, even if they just used your same process of doing it. Find a way to tell that story and then show how you can then help them make that story their own. Your email marketing, as you send out emails to people, you can use subject lines and stories in your emails that tell stories like this. You can use that to tell a story of people who are turning things around, people who are, you know, turning their life around, who have these problems, and people are going to go, wow, I want that. I want that story. And on your website as well, you can create customer success stories. Once you start doing this more and more and you start working with people and you start developing these success stories, you can turn these, and a lot of people use testimonials. You put the little bit of a testimonial on there. You're like, yeah, you know, I worked with Susan over here and Susan was great. She was amazing. She was wonderful. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But people have seen a million of those. But what if you had an engaging case study? What if you had a story that went with it? Like, hey, when this person came to me, when she came to me and she had nothing, she couldn't figure out how to do any of this stuff. And she was lost and confused. She just had a dream in her heart to build a business. She had a dream in her heart to do something significant, something that was in her that she felt like she needed to do this thing. And we showed her how to do this, how to put this together, how to do that. And it turned into an amazing result. It turned into something that now is this amazing business where she's working with clients that she loves. She's doing a business that is incredible for her. She's doing an amazing thing. She's doing something that is just flipping her life around. She's fulfilled. She's living this amazing life. She's making a good income for what she's doing. She's impacting people's lives. She knows that she's making a huge difference. Wow. Is that a lot more powerful than just a testimonial saying, hey, I worked with Susan and she was great? I think so. Because that story tells something that people long for themselves. It's something that people want for themselves. It's something that people want to have in their own life. So when you start telling these case studies, when you start sharing these stories like this, and you show the transformation that you were able to help people achieve, it's powerful. And people start getting into that mindset of, I want what they have. I want that for my life. There's just this wow, what they experienced was incredible. I want that too. And now it's a question of, how do I do it? How can this happen for me? How can this be my story? Because I want to be that hero in the story. I want to be that success story. I want to be the person who overcame the challenges and did something amazing. I want that story for myself. And when you have that mindset, when you create that moment for them, they're going to be, I want to join, I want to do it. And then things like, what is the price, become secondary, because they want that story. They want that outcome for their life so bad that when you say, well, how much is it? Well, then you give them the price and they say, okay, I'll find a way to afford it. I'll find a way to pay for it. I'll find a way to do it. Now price becomes a secondary consideration because they are so emotionally invested. They are so dialed into this story, into this narrative that they want for their life, is that the other things, I'll just have to figure them out. I'll just have to do what I have to do to make it work. I'm just have to trust God. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that just to make it work. I'll find a way. Now you've created transformation. Now you've created something that's turning this into a huge, huge desire, and not just a, oh, I looked at the data and the data looks like it might work. You know, the information looks reasonable. Okay, I guess I'll do it. But then they're not committed and invested at all. When you create that story, you create a whole other level of engagement, a whole other level of an interest and desire. And now people are invested. They're bought in and they want to be part of this. And they're wanting to be doing these things again and again. And all of this comes down to, you need to understand your audience's pain points and desires, obviously. You need to understand, who is that person that I'm trying to help? You need to have a very clear understanding of who are these people? What do they look like? What are their values? What is important to them? What are they going through in their life? What are their pain points? What are they struggling? What are their hopes? What are their fears? You need to have a good understanding of that, because you cannot hope to create a story for them unless you first understand who they are, what they're afraid of, what they desire. What is it? You need to have that clear in your own mind first. And then once you have that, now you can create that story. Now you can create that narrative. You can create that story that you can tell for them, that dials it in and helps them become more effective, helps them realize they need to hire you. They need to buy your product and service to get the thing that they want. So here's the thing. This hero's journey is a framework. It's a framework for your marketing. It's how you should be structuring your marketing. You should be structuring your marketing, telling this in your marketing. You should be weaving this story in and through it so that people can see this and they can go, wow. And I have literally had moments where I've shared a story like this and have had people in a one-on-one conversation just stop me mid-sentence and say, David, please stop. I'm like, okay, how do I sign up? I was like, oh, okay. They didn't even need me to talk anymore. They were so moved by the story. They were so moved by what I was sharing with them that they didn't care anymore. They just wanted it. I need it now. Let's go. How do we do this? How do we get this done right now? Because I'm ready. Let's go. I want this story for myself. This is exactly what I want. And so when you do that, when you take that story and you compellingly tell it, people are going to buy in. People are going to dial in to exactly what it is that you're doing and what you're selling. And they're going to want to join you. And they're not, again, the other stuff is going to become secondary. They're just going to say, how do I have this? How do I get this? How do I sign up? Because I need this. I want this. I'm invested in this. I want it. Just tell me where to sign up. I'll figure out the money. I'll figure out everything else. I'll find a way to make it work. And so finding a way to tell this story, whether it be through video, having a video telling the story, whether it be through story in a written format, find a way through different methods to tell this story, to tell a story that shows how they can become the hero in their own story. how they, in spite of the fact that right now they're staring at an obstacle, they're staring at a challenge, they're staring at something that right now looks like they're not going to achieve. There's something, a problem in their life or a goal that they want to achieve that right now looks like it's not going to happen. It looks like right now, man, could be a problem. This may not get there. This may not make it because I don't know if I can get there. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know that if I can pull this off because it's just, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I'm confused. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. But suddenly they hear your story and suddenly they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You have the answer. You have a way to make this problem go away. You have a way to make my dream happen. You have a way to solve this for me in my life. And if I do, I'm going to feel like the hero in my home life because I'm going to overcome this challenge. I'm going to achieve my goal. I'm going to reach my dream. I'm going to become that person that I've always wanted to be. This is going to be amazing. How do I sign up? This is why you need to find a way to tell stories. Because telling the story isn't just an entertaining way of speaking. It's not just a way to say, oh, hey, I'm going to tell you a story because it'll be fun. No. It's a way to build your business in a very, very powerful way. It's the best way to get customers. It's the best way for you to grow your business is learning how to utilize storytelling to get customers because they are going to hear what you have to say. They're going to know what it is that you're doing. They're going to see what you're doing, not just from an analytical fact side, but they're going to see it emotionally. They're going to feel it inside of them. They're going to desire it. They're going to want it. They're going to know what it is that they like, this is what I want. This is the thing that I want with my life. And you can do it for me. This is it. This is the path that I've been looking for. This is what I've been waiting for all this time. I can do this. Suddenly there's belief, there's hope. And as a result, how do I sign up? It just becomes superfluous. How do I sign up? I have to find a way to sign up. So think about this. What are the stories that you can tell in your business? How can you show someone who is that ideal client that you're trying to reach, who's struggling with something in their life that they don't know how to solve, and to show them that there's a way to get there? Show them the story. Show them the way that they can succeed. Because if you can do that, people are going to be knocking down your door to sign up. People are going to be pounding on you and say, I want in. I want to do this because this is my dream. This is what I want. This is exactly what I need. So that's it for this episode. That's everything I got for you for this one. If there's anything that you need help with, check out designlaunchgrow.com. We would love to help you build this into your business, show you how to be successful like this. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will talk to you again very soon.